If you clicked on this video, you already know the topic, and what I'm about to say might conflict with a lot of what you've been hearing. Many YouTubers in our hobby will tell you that game masters aren't storytellers, but that can be misleading. Obviously, they know what they mean, I know what they mean, experienced game masters know what they mean. However, if you're new to the hobby, this could seem confusing because, wait for it, it's not necessarily true. A game master describes the environment, and that is a form of storytelling. A game master breathes life into the world and its non-player characters, and they provide detailed descriptions of what a player character's five senses perceive, and that is a form of storytelling. And the better you are at storytelling, the better you'll be as a game master. So in reality, the question of game masters as storytellers is much more nuanced than a simple, no they aren't. So let's just look at this in a bit of more detail. Game masters create the setting, describe environments, and present non-player characters with their own backgrounds and motives. This is how we bring NPCs to life through dialogue and actions, developing the NPCs in ways similar to how authors develop characters in a story. This involves a significant amount of narrative creation, akin to storytelling. We also set scenes by describing locations, atmospheres, and events. This is not unlike the job of a true storyteller. An experienced game master is able to craft overarching plots and storylines. Oh, the beauty of the sandbox campaign. We introduce conflicts, challenges, and plot twists. We assist the players in shaping their story's progression. And of great importance, perhaps the most important point to be made aware of, is that the best game masters use tried and true storytelling techniques such as pacing, tension, and foreshadowing to enhance the entire gaming experience. Last year, I made a video about the importance of great descriptions to keep players engaged. That will serve as a great addition to this video. So when someone tells you that game masters are not storytellers, what they're really doing is reminding us how TTRPGs are a collaborative effort. The game master isn't there to tell anyone their story. The game master must not become significantly attached to any desired story outcome or NPC. A game master who does that is not just cheating the players of a genuine experience, but they're also depriving themselves from one of the greatest joys of refereeing these games. I strongly advise against DMPCs. Other than the NPCs, the game master should not have any particular stake in the outcome of an adventure or even the broader campaign. Most of my enjoyment, for example, beyond world building, comes from my players taking me on a journey and surprising me with outcomes I never could have expected at the start of the game. Understanding this and perfecting your skill in this area is also going to elevate your own world-building designs. The homebrew world you've been creating should be able to tell its own story. It should reveal things to you that you never intended in the beginning. This all happens over the course of time during the creation process. In regard to NPCs and DMPCs, if the players are short-handed and need an NPC to fill out the group, then the DM is better advised to give one of the players control of that NPC rather than risk becoming emotionally invested with a DMPC. It may be surprising to some that in many of the official published rules books for GM advice, there are in fact allowances for cheating on dice rolls. But if you cheat on dice rolls, you are stealing from the players. The absolute only time I give permission for cheating on dice rolls is strictly limited to new game masters who homebrewed something that only during the course of that specific encounter is determined to be much too hard for the players to overcome. And that's only if it would have a significantly negative impact on the whole adventure to not make those on-the-spot adjustments. In those hopefully rare situations, the novice GM isn't taking on the role of a storyteller or depriving their players of the consequences of their actions. In those situations, the GM is acknowledging that they made an error and the players shouldn't be punished for it. Otherwise, a game master's job doesn't even include crafting so-called balanced encounters. It is your player's responsibility to know when to run. This might be your world, but it's their story. And I'm there to describe what the player characters encounter. I create obstacles. I grant rewards. TTRPGs do tell stories, but those are collaborative. In addition to serving as the five senses for every character, I facilitate gameplay, deciding on how a rule is resolved or even if we'll be using a rule as it is written. There are many times I'll only use the written rule as a guideline, but find they don't always apply. Just this last Sunday, my players knocked a massive giant down. The rules say your ranged attacks on prone targets are done at disadvantage, but that doesn't really make sense for a massive giant the size of a barn. Or the time I had to limit a character who normally gets 2 axe attacks per round to only one because they were trying to swing through metal bars blocking a passage. The unpredictable nature of these games means we must be flexible and able to adapt on the fly, responding to players' choices rather than directing a fixed narrative. When someone tells you game masters aren't storytellers, what they're really saying is that we aren't movie directors. There's a difference. A movie director takes a finished script, and it is their job to ensure the characters in that script complete all of the scenes as written to achieve an outcome that is predetermined. So, if you view storytelling as including the creation and description of worlds, characters, and events, then game masters are indeed storytellers. However, if storytelling is seen as having sole control over the narrative direction, then the collaborative nature of TTRPGs demands a more nuanced role. Game masters are in fact storytellers, but you're absolutely not a director. As always, I'm your host and friend Aten here at We Love TTRPGs, and I thank you so much for watching.